All right. So I just finished seeing Anemone. Got to see that film. And I did see it. And I'm not going to say this movie is bad. What I will say is I enjoyed elements. I enjoyed elements of it. But if someone were to ask me, did I enjoy this film overall, I would have to say no. I would have to be completely honest in that regard. The acting was very great. Of course, you got Daniel Day-Lewis, you got Sean Bean. So you have some two great men in here coming to who are brothers, and they come together. And that when they were talking, it was really good. This is what I will say. I mean, if I'm not gonna spoil anything, but what I will say is the story is really about Sean Bean going back to get his brother, Daniel Day-Lewis. He's in the forest. He leaves to live alone in the forest for 20 years. He just basically going to see why did he leave, and also to bring him back to his son, because he has a son. And that's basically the journey of the film. That story that I just gave you, that little synopsis there, or that premise does not have to be over 2 hours long. It does not have to be that long. I mean, if they did something different with the film, maybe you could say, okay, it needs to be a little bit longer. But what they did, it did not have to be 2 hours. This film could have been an hour and 30 minutes, and I think it would have been so much better. I think people would have been like, oh my God, this is so great. Just have Daniel Day-Lewis. It'll be all of this amazing things. Hold on, my light's not working. Oh, look at that. We got some light going on. All right. Anyways, what I will say is, it's just like, it could have been a lot shorter. And here's the thing. They have a lot of beautiful cinematic shots. Beautiful. Like shots that probably took them 5 hours to create, to record it for about maybe like 5 minutes, not just 5 minutes, but like they have so many sweeping great shots of the area that brings you into the atmosphere, which is very good. But if you do that enough times and you don't move the story forward, then people are going to get bored. And that's why I feel like it was mainly like a slog fest to get to even the crux of the story, about the brother, bring him back to the son. You kind of know that already from the beginning, but it's like, there's so much, this film is padded by so much unnecessary things that don't need to be there. That's not advancing the story forward. And a lot of stuff where things happen and they don't explain it, maybe some people might say, hey, you need to watch it more than once to understand it. Understandable, but there's just so much unnecessary shots that's so long. And like, I get, like, my audience, when we walked in, you could feel the energy. Everyone was excited. They was like, yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is gonna be good, da, 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 da. And then like in the middle of the film, when like nothing was happening and nothing was moving forward, you could feel like the energy in this theater was just like, it was like people were held hostage by this runtime. But yeah, so if they fixed the runtime, I think the movie could have been a lot better. But obviously, like I said, the acting is brilliant. Daniel Day-Lewis, just him talking, him giving monologues, is just beautiful. The story, the way they did the story, and the reason he actually leaves for 20 years is trauma related. I'm not gonna spoil it too much, but trauma related, and I could understand. I understand the story. I understand his point of view, and they make you understand by the way he tells his story, the way he tells what happened to him, and different things like that. And then, but you got to remember, he also has a son at home who feels a certain way. He's gone for 20 years. Why did my dad leave? All these different things, all these questions unanswered. And it's kind of like how the film leaves you as well. A lot of questions unanswered. But like I said, it's just the length. If they, as you know what it is also, because Dan Day-Lewis' son is doing the film and he came back, support him and everything like that. And the thing is, like, when people like are important or they feel important and they make movies and they just know people are going to see it, it's like they have unfettered creation, which is cool. But at the end of this movie, when you think about who this movie was really for, it's for Daniel Day-Lewis and his son. That's who the movie is for. It's not a crowd pleaser. It's not something that you go to and you feel like you're like, it's like a full appetite. Like you got the film gave you, it gave you questions, and then it fulfilled some of those questions with some answers that kind of make you think about life and think about stuff like that. Maybe some of those questions, but as far as the main point of the film, you don't really get there. I can't really say that. I like the way the ending's kind of open ended, but not really. You'll see if you see the movie, but it's just, I feel like they needed someone to rein him in. They needed someone to say, tell Daniel Lewis' son, hey, look, you shot all these great shots. The movie's a little over 2 hours. This is awesome. All these shots are awesome. But what did they do for the story? Like, have that serious conversation. Him and his dad sit down. Okay, look, you did a great acting job. I wrote a great script. Like, I don't know if he wrote it, but the point is, he's like, I have a great script. And then they sit down talking. He's like, okay, this advances the story forward. This is good. And then we have about 40 minutes of the forest and all this stuff and all of these imagery. And people are going to see these imageries and they're going to feel a certain way and they're going to wrap up the story and it's going to be beautiful. Yeah, but how are you going to make them realize that certain things mean certain things? No, we're just going to show it to them because, that's how art is. It's subjective. True. But is that going to do anything good for the film? Or is it just going to make it 30 minutes of looking at the sky in the forest? So, like, it's, I mean, if you want to be fully immersed and I wanted to be fully immersed. I went in with a big open mind and I was like ready for it. And I think like there's a difference between immersing someone and then like drowning them. You know what I mean? Like I said, if you put even if you put 15, maybe 20 minutes of the atmosphere or just sounds and then people not talking, if you do that, then maybe just 20 to 15 minutes and then you have the story around it. And then got this movie to maybe like an hour and like maybe 40 minutes, maybe hour and like 45, maybe even hour and 50 minutes probably would have been great. But when you go like 2 hours and a little change, like it's like if you have a kid and you're talking to them. If you have a kid, even if it's not a kid, say it's your brother or sister, whoever. If you're talking to someone and you're trying to get them to explain your point, if you talk to them for 10 minutes, if you give them a 10-minute lecture, there's a point where the person is not going to listen to you. They're not absorbing the information. So when you give us forest, sky, water, rain, and then you try to put the layers of the story, like we're catching some of the story and we're catching some of the layers. But if you did like forest, story, have them talk, dialogue, and then come back to forest, then maybe we're gonna be like, oh, okay, wow, I'm moving with this film. But the pacing is just not there. It's like, it's some people will love it. Some people will love it because of the visuals, and I'm sure they will. But it's really, I think this is really just a passion project, and for parts of this film, it feels like a silent film, which is okay, but like I said, it's just not really a crowd pleaser. And I think like the way it ends, I like the way they end it. It's just, I like the way they end it because, what should I say about that name? I don't want to spoil anything. What I'll say is this: the way they end it is rewarding in one small way because you're watching this film for a reason. When they give you the premise and different things, just a tiny bit. But it's just like when Daniel Day-Lewis is talking to Sean Bean, those are the best parts. But those parts are in the movie, but it's like there's so much space in between. Like I feel like why did they want to feel like they want to put so much space? And I think the only reason I could think of is because they wanted to create this atmosphere. They wanted you to feel that he's been away for 20 years. And then also the crazy part is there's actually really good story with his son that they go back and forth with his son, and they need to do more with his son. I think I think that was where the film would have been great, because the dynamic of him not being with his son and then what his son thinks and not knowing why he left, all these different things, like there's so much meat that they're just not using. Like whenever you got to go back and they got to this parts of the film, you get to see his son talking to his mom. When they do that, it's like, it's good because it's tying back to him being away when you go back to it. And they don't do that often. I wish they did that more. Or they could have showed his, I don't want to spoil anything, but they could have showed his son, they could have showed his son living life a little bit more. I felt like every time they shot, I don't know what the budget was, but I feel like every time they shot, his son was in the same place is what I'll say. And I think that they could have did more with showing his son's environment, how his son is actually going through life, rather than telling us something that happened and now they want to go get his dad because of whatever happened. Like, show us the way his son is living, the way his son might be walking through the town and seeing people with fathers or something. Like, this could have been a really good father and son story. And I think it was just held back by the layers of so much atmosphere and so much imagery, which I agree with. It's just that the amount is insane. And it doesn't need to be 2 hours. Like, I'm telling you, the theater is crazy, because that's why I like going to the movie theater, because you could feel the energy. You could feel the energy in the theater. And I'm telling you, the beginning of this film, even through the previews, you could feel the energy. There was a good amount of people in my theater. You could feel the energy. The energy was like Daniel Day-Lewis. It was excited, you know? And we were with all the imagery when we got it for the first hour and 20 minutes. And not too much dialogue. People were still with the film. But once you get to the hour and 30 minutes, and then you get more heavy imagery and more sweeping vistas and no dialogue, little to no dialogue, then it's like the energy is getting sucked out. And yeah. But if I had to do this out of 5 stars, I'd give this a 1 out of 5. I gotta be honest. I would give it a 1 out of 5. The 1 is straight for dialogue, straight for the acting and everything. And also, normally, when I grade films, I just do it out of my experience. How did I feel? And when I left, I felt like 1 star. There was times where I felt like, oh, this is 3. It's like a 3 star. And then it was like sucking the energy out of me. So I give it a 1 out of 5. But enjoy it if you want. Don't take my opinion, but I just want to give my thoughts on it. It was an interesting experience, to say the least. But take care, stay Joe Another Lane, spread love and light, and let's sign off.